Let me redo this. What it is, what's up? I'm redoing my intro in the cut. Uh, I did my intro before, but I was like, I didn't really feel it for whatever reason. James Madison's ranked in basketball and football. That's insane. Anyway, or they should be ranked in football. Fuck the NCAA, of course. This is going to keep me awake, so I'm going to key in on what I think has happened so far in this halftime. I don't even know if you need statistics, but if you want to just look through kind of the general, we don't need to go through play by or not play by play, the bot score. Just look at the team statistics. 17 and 31, 17 made field goals, 15 assists, almost 1-to-1, four steals against one block, uh, half of the turnovers, a little bit of a foul lead, I guess, for Auburn. And rebounds, again, are about tied. Free throws, we're losing that battle again, of course. Three pointers at 21 points against three. So that'll do it. In a 20-point game, we have a quick maths 18-point advantage. So that's called an ass kicking, and that's what's happening. There's not really much to say about the statistical part of the game other than they just beat the shit out of these dudes. I guess as far as the on the court stuff, honestly, it feels like at points it could be worse than the score is at this moment. Because simply put, bro, uh, Aiden took some bullshit threes. And Aiden takes a lot of bullshit threes he's going to make. He takes a lot that he's going to miss. But he makes a considerable amount for any player. He makes a considerable amount of off kilter, off balance, bad footwork threes. He makes more than like 99% of college players, I think, ever has made. However, uh, you wanted to be like somewhat in rhythm. Last game, he I think went 5 and 9 from the floor, and I want to say 3 or 5 from three or 3 or 4, something like that. Um, they were almost all in rhythm threes. Like they were still for the most part like off the dribble, but they were in rhythm. The two he first missed, or I know the one he missed first was like a pull up three. That was a miss. And I think he took one that was like I want to say like 5 feet behind the 3 point line. I know he's made a couple. I think he's 2 of 4, 2 of 5, 2 of 5. Okay, so yeah, he missed one as a pull up three that was completely off dribble. He missed his first two shots overall. And then he missed one that was like probably 5 or 6 feet before the 3 point line. And then he missed another one that just was horrible footwork. He kind of like had a guy in his pocket almost. From what he perceived, he created space. So he said, okay, I had enough space to get a three off where he wasn't fully composed. I think the progress with Aiden as far as a shooter is going to come, is going to come in him not settling for those type of threes. Now, I say that Steph Curry, the best shooter in the history of the league, will willingly take a lot of bad, low footwork threes and make them. So it's again not me saying that you shouldn't take those type of shots. It's just you have to have a good feel for when to take them. And for us casuals that will never be able to shoot that well as Aiden Holloway or Steph Curry, we're not gonna know when he should take them. But I do know that if a dude is in your pocket and you you just take it because you want to create space in the most quick way possible, not the best. Outside of that, he hasn't had a good shooting day. Although one of his misses that was a field goal, which he's only missed two field goals. Oh, he's only taken two non 3 point field goals. One that was a miss was a layup where he did beat his dude. I think he gathered it like a step too early and he tried to spit it in, but it basically was damn near a wedgie. But he did create space and he was like to the rim virtually uncontested. He just probably gathered maybe a step early and just wedged it. I think the first one was his first shot of the game, so I think it was a pull up midi. So not a great shooting display by him. The shots were not the smartest ever, but again, when you got a guy that like shoots on that level, like has the capacity to be that much of a threat, it just like messes the defense up in such a way that I can't tell him not to shoot those. Like his 3 pointer creates spacing in a very loud way. And as the game progresses and people like actually scout Auburn more, it'll probably actually help to a certain degree, at least the overall team. Because right now, like dudes are giving like dudes are going under on threes, or dudes are like playing drop coverage on threes, and they may just start doubling Aiden. So as long as Aiden can read doubles efficiently, it's going to make it a lot of 4-on-3 ball, which it can be hard to read doubles. I mean, outside of Sharif Cooper, I don't know if any of Auburn's points since 2019 have been really if good at reading doubles. I think Donaldson has been pretty good at it, but obviously not the same level of minutes played as some of the guys I'm trying to think in the top of my head. Outside of him, Broom has been very efficient. Um, he got worked on a couple of post entries early in the game, but he's been okay since then. He's himself on post entries has been very good on offense. He's found his spot, found a hook shot he likes. Took one of his patented like his form looks ugly regardless, so you don't know if it's gonna be a good three or a bad three. And then he like tried to do like a little post like kind of almost like a just I forgot what people call it, but when you just lob the ball, I forget what you call it, but it's like an Olympic thing. You like throw the ball like a pot shot, I guess. He did one of those towards the rim, almost like a floater adjacent, and that was I was off badly off. But outside of that, I mean, he's had a great day. Has tried on the rebounding front, and is the leading scorer, obviously. Outside of him, Simo not really the same level of scoring as the previous game, but like I said in the previous video, you get Simo regardless. You don't have to worry about the effort, the kind of attention to detail, and the hustle plays. All the stuff that really matters, when you have a guy like Simo out there. The points are just icing on the cake. Jalen had a really good steal, and I forgot what his. I think his other basket was just like a entry in the post, kind of simple hook shot. But good rebounding again. I really gotta commend him for his emphasis on being a rebounding presence. And Denver, more of an active Denver game, which is what I was hoping for at the end of last video. Like you just need Denver more engaged with going to the cup if need be, but just something where he's making the defense feel him. And he's been in the right spot on what I think it's the left wing for two of his two threes. The last one in the half, and then he had another one where he was also in the corner. I think he was on a was he in the corner? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm thinking about Katie Johnson. He was on the right wing, but Denver was on the left wing. Denver was on the left wing. Katie was in the right corner for his three. And yeah, he's just been butter. I mean, if he has an open three, it's going to be butter. Three is wait, no, I was reading Holloway's 2 assists for Denver. Let me see who else here. Cardwell, just fucking Cardwell game. What can I say, man? He moves his feet well against defenders, but the thing that gets him is on up fakes. Any kind of fakes is where you really get like Cardwell at his worst. But in terms of just like moving, like especially being grounded to the ground, like moving his feet, Cardwell's actually good at moving his feet. It's when he has to like jump is where you're like, oh shit. That's when you don't know what's gonna happen. Cheney's been really good on defense too. Been trying to be a rebounding presence. I'm thinking of him as more of a really a post player around at this point, especially defensively. On offensively, it's not really being asked to do too much with working around the perimeter. Chad Baker Mazar, he had an open three. He dribbled a little bit, little dribble for CBM. 2 assists as well, so shout out to him. Overall, I mean, I thought a good half of basketball could have been better, obviously, but I mean, when you look at the opposing team, the announcers are saying that they're worn the fuck out. You look at the 3 pointers. One thing you'll notice when you shoot threes, and by the way, I got the spread right. I said 10. I think I said 9 or 10, and I got the spread right, so that's cool. Um, One of you, if you've ever like played basketball, when you're tired, your legs are just shoot. I try not to curse right there, but that would have been a moment where it actually would have made more sense to curse. They're crap. Your legs are crap. And getting lift on 3 pointers can be tough. I don't think they've had any air balls I can think of, but yeah, when you're shooting, like as I imagine the distance of a college court is, and you have no legs in you, and you're playing against a team that's as manic as Auburn is on defense, it's got to be hell. And these dudes definitely like a little bit fatigued. I will say, I mean, they've gone 8 deep from what I can tell, just reading the because ESPN doesn't update their minutes until like after the game. So just looking at what we got here, I mean, they've gone 8 deep. The shots have been spread out well enough. But Auburn, I mean, the tempo combined with 10, I mean, 10 deep is different than 8 deep. Like, there's probably like a compounding effect by each man. You spread it out. And with Auburn, they do a lot of ball handling centralized to a few players. So, generally speaking, that's how they play. They've been a little bit more laissez-faire, kind of decentralized this season. But when you really only have to worry about like just basically being in your spot on offense, as many of our kind of complementary players are, they just have more injury reserve to be like hell on defense, and that's philosophy has worked so far this season. So that's about it. I got nothing else to say really. 12 minutes. We'll see how the post halftime break treats Auburn. They came out and just beat the shit out of Notre Dame yesterday, and I hope they do the same around this time so I can get my nap. I'm supposed to be napping right now.
All right. That was not fun, to say the very least, but it wasn't horrible either. Um, I got Arkansas and UNC Greensboro. Let's go UNC Greensboro. I think it's an HBCU. I see a white guy on the team. Never mind. Uh, okay. I'm back. I've been recording intros all day, I guess. Anyway, that wasn't a fun second half, but I'm not gonna hold you guys too long because it was just survival, pretty much, more or less. The most I feel like apparent thing for an Auburn fan is that you have to really sit there and say, in tight games, we might need some help. And if you come to that conclusion, I would agree with you. Their alpha player since he came back from the NBA Combine Waters, Janai Broom, dreadful at free throw shooting still, just absolutely terrible at it. Pretty much I don't want to say he deaded their chances to beat Houston with that being the case. I mean, there were obviously way more factors, some even bigger than his free throw shooting that led to that loss. But he was the only guy Houston seemingly couldn't account for in defense for the most part. And they basically didn't have to worry about the fact they couldn't do that because when he went to the strike, bad. Um, in this game, he was a much better player than the Houston game, obviously. He, like they said, he did foul out two different centers, him being the main guy who affected that. But at the end of the day, if you can't make free throws, that's going to put a very high ceiling on how you perform in contentious, close games. Outside of him, the free throw shooting was immaculate. Cardwell went 6 assists, Holloway 2 of 2, Jones missed one. Everybody else went perfect. But you end up at 70% because your main conduit for free throw points was just horrible. And he's going to probably continue to be horrible. I mean, he's been bad for entire season here, and I imagine he probably wasn't much better at the previous stop he had, Morehead State, I believe. He's just a bad free throw shooter, and he's probably going to continue being bad. So hopefully that doesn't rear its head in another high leverage tournament game, and hopefully the other team does not choose to press too much because they looked bad against the press. That being said, I mean Baylor did turn up and got at least one turnover I can remember vividly with some full court pressure. It was almost just like the one that happened today where the guard gets trapped. He releases it to the valve, which is Jalen Williams. And in that, Jalen gets doubled. And just a horrible handle just leads to an easy turnover. That happened tonight and happened against Baylor. And that was from the turning point in the Baylor game. Thankfully, this one was too close for that really to matter in the grand scheme of things. Although it did definitely get a little bit shaky, I would say. It got to 11, and they missed an open bucket that would have brought it to single digits. I want to say something like that. Guys being too close, the ball handler, like in one example, Aiden Holloway told guys to go back because basically he grabbed the ball off the inbound, and not only was his man there, the help was right there to trap because the other players were in his vicinity in his circle. When you have that happening, too many dudes clustered, it makes a full court press uh, child's play. I mean, it really becomes easy stuff. And we also obviously have a lot of guys that are not used to those type of situations. Chris Moore caught it. I think it was a quick. I don't know if it was a double, if I remember correctly. I think it might have been before the double came. Like basically, in some instances, the double's already on you. In other instances, you can see the double's coming. And I think he tried to throw it to a dude who was basically around 7 feet away from him, but more or less parallel to his right. And he had a guy on him because they were in a full court press. He like just basically chucked it to the opposite sideline. He was on one sideline more or less, and he pretty much chucked it to the opposite one because he missed the dude in between. So there's a lot of dudes I don't trust whatsoever in the in that type of situation. I don't know if there's any dudes I do trust after that because even Donaldson, he had one turnover. Well, he had one pass that was a little bit too far for the receiver to really get to, and that led to a turnover. So it's one of those things you just need to practice it a lot more. I'm sure they probably practice it in, you know, dry runs during a practice, but to see it go live, it's a whole different experience, obviously. And this is one of the oldest teams, like they said multiple times in the broadcast, although they haven't played each other very often. Age does kind of portend a certain level of experience in most situations, at least as an individual. And I thought even without that experience, they did a pretty commendable job of kind of patchworking this press together. Thankfully, they didn't really have the dogs running too often. I mean, by the point they started running it, they already had like, I think they had the first center foul out. I think the other one was from on his way out, more or less. They started doing it around 3 or 4 minutes left. So they were running like, what, a 7-man rotation at that point? They ran a 3-man rotation anyway, and two dudes fouled out. So yeah, pretty much a 6-man rotation. Thankfully, they didn't have the dogs to run too often. We got kind of lucky. As for the rest of the story of the game, again, it's pretty much a survival. Auburn did just enough to, and I think Justin, I think his name starts with a P, the Auburn Observer guy. He noted that they only lost the second half by 3 points, so they did just enough, I would say. Just every time it kind of got close, they answered more or less, you know. The rebounding is a real problem. They've gone against multiple teams that they should have had either an athleticism advantage or a numbers advantage in terms of depth against. So tired legs is not a factor that can be factored into this. And they've basically equated in the rebounding game against really middling teams so far. So that's, I mean, the centers for this team were huge. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't matter. Like their centers were freaking massive. I think one was 6'10 and one was 6'11. They were both built like freaking statues. But at the end of the day, man, you can't like if you're losing rebound against or basically equating these really bad teams in rebounding. Um, you're gonna probably get beat up pretty badly in some other games. I will say, like I said in the previous game, Jalen Williams is definitely. I think I might have said probably in the first game or the first video for the first game. Jalen Williams is definitely their best rebounder, and it's not close. Like he's probably the best combination of hustle, placement, just jump timing, I guess. Like all that stuff. He's definitely their alpha in rebounding, which for that alone, leave him in the starting lineup because they definitely need it. Outside of him, I mean, Cardwell tries. Broom, his motor is not the best, but he does his best. They need a lot of help in rebounding. I'm not gonna lie to you. For a team this long, it's weird, and like their guys contributed. The longer dudes, Baker 6'7", he got in there. Cheney 6'7", 6'8". He got in there. Cardwell. I mean, it's not like they're not doing anything right, but like they're not a good rebounding team. I'll be honest with you. They're not that. But they are a good. Putting pressure on the ball. They're doing that more without fouling as much. Although 17 fouls, a decent amount, but they had nobody that was really in trouble of fouling out at any point. I think Cardwell had three early, I want to say. But outside of that, they pretty much were pretty clean. And they got generated only four steals. So I don't know what they had in the first game, but it seems to me that they kind of understood that a big part of the fouling problem is that Auburn plays a certain grab the ball, you reach for the ball type defense. They have for years, and that leads to more fouls. So if you can kind of keep your hands in your pockets a little bit more, you won't foul as much. And they're going to have to find a good balance of that because they obviously play a lot better in transition they do in the half court, but they run more sets than most Auburn teams have done in the past. So it's not like they need to lean on transition for points. There's some Auburn teams that need a transition to really be offensively effective whatsoever. I don't think that's this team, so to speak. But only three blocks, only four steals. As bad as the Bonaventures were with consistent double dribbles, traveling carries, just basically picking up your pivot foot, or basically stop dribbling at all and then still continue to dribble, which it feels elementary as hell for a team that's old. But if you're playing against the defensive pressure that Auburn applies to it, it's hard. I don't even blame. I blame some of them because, like the commentator said, like their center had mad turnovers, and it was in part because he needed to get to a certain hand and he didn't feel comfortable posting up without getting to that hand. Although they continued running freaking post ups for the guy, even though he showed he was. So, I mean, it was good offense for him when he was able to get to the hand and get the ball off without, traveling. It was mainly made buckets, but unfortunately, he couldn't figure that part of the offense out too often. So, this team could be pretty good come tournament time, but we'll see how they pan out. As for Auburn, clean up some of the really, really ugly ball handling late. Maybe find some more points somewhere. I mean, they even before that, I mean, they definitely slowed down in terms of pace, even before the turnovers ad nausea. The pace was not uh, comparable in the second half, I would say. And you didn't have, I would say, a top end point guard game this game. I think Johnson did enough to keep the offense going. Aiden just scoring wise was just not there whatsoever, and not even really close. But I mean, it happens. Like when you're somebody who takes the type of shots he takes, you're gonna go off sometimes. And the challenge is figuring out a way to keep him involved as an offensive threat, even when he's like shooting 2 of 10 from the floor. So hopefully we can figure that out. Again, I'm not gonna hold you guys up too much longer. It's a pretty simple half. Just survive and get out of there. And they did do that. Obviously, won by 17, so you can't be too mad. Cover the spread. Won on by almost the same amount, I think, as they had in Notre Dame game. I think it was 24. So 7 point difference. No white guys coming in for this one, but they did win comfortably. So we'll take it. On to bigger and better pastures, so to speak.